Okay.
Okay. All right.
It's recording already.
Recording on though. Like we're
Yeah.
recording.
It's okay. We can edit it.
All right. Let's try to get started. Hey everyone. Welcome to the social distancing edition of the Social Exchange. I'm Whit.
I'm Monique.
I'm Ashmack.
I'm Brooke.
All right. So for today's topic, we're going to discuss knowing when to move on or let go of a relationship. So to get the conversation started, and for those of you who are not familiar with the Social Exchange, it's just a platform or a space where we're able to just have a lot of girl talk in regards to some topics or issues that impact us as millennials. So as I was Instagram searching and surfing, I came across a post, and I want to read it out. And ladies, let me know your opinion or viewpoint from this. So
Read it then.
All right, girl. So it says, just because y'all dated for 7 years don't mean he gonna marry you, sis. My cousin studied medicine for 6 years and now he a DJ. So what are y'all thoughts about that?
Thoughts?
A DJ.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Old DJ.
Okay.
I mean, that's true. Just because y'all were together that long does not mean he's going to marry you if that wasn't his intention when y'all first started dating, or if that wasn't on like his spectrum of thought when you guys first started dating, or if that didn't come up as a topic of conversation. You can't just expect the longevity of a relationship to end in marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would want to know, was this a conversation they had initially, or was it one of the first conversations they had? Because it doesn't seem like it. Like, was there dating for intent to having a serious relationship, or it just kind of fell into a relationship? You know what I mean? Was there any intention set at all?
Very true. I completely agree. I think longevity of a relationship does not necessarily lead to a ring. I think sometimes us as women, we get very caught up in the history aspect. We have so much history. We've been together for so long. And so because you've put in this time, and a lot of us, I feel like, have been guilty at one time or another, saying like, I put all this work into him. I'll be damned if I'm going to leave.
Right.
We get very caught up in that. And then you're disappointed when he hit you with the, I'm not trying to be married, or I don't know what I want. And it's been 7 years. So I completely agree.
Yeah.
Well, how do you even jump into that conversation? You know what I mean? Like, is that really a first date type of question? So are you trying to get married? Like, what? Because if you say that, it could ruffle feathers.
But I mean, it depends on the age range, or like because you can tie that into at least the first 3 dates of a conversation. Like, what are your long-term goals? Like, what do you see coming out of a relationship? Like, you can tie that into it just so that you already know, because there are some women that don't want to get married. That, if it's on that man's mind, they don't necessarily want that. So you can tie that into, first, second, or third date conversation. Like, is that something you want to do? Not, and you can make it seem like you're not desperate to get married. You just, want to know. Like, you're not Joan off of Girlfriends. You just want to know.
Right. I completely agree. I think it's also very dependent on the man that you're dating. Even I feel like when maturity is a big factor in who you're dealing with, it doesn't matter at what point in that talking stage the question comes up. He's not going to run away or shy away from it. It's just a question. Marriage is a very big part of us growing and developing into the adults that we plan to be. And so I feel like a man who is mentally mature, he's not going to feel any type of way about that question. He'll answer it as quickly as he'll answer, yes, I want to have children, and this is how many children I want to have. For him, it won't be oh no, she's doing too much, let me dead the date. So I think maturity plays a big factor in that.
Well, let's talk about maturity, because a lot of times when you're dating or getting to know someone, a lot of times people mask who they truly are. You know what I mean? They put together a good front to show you, the better version of them for that temporary time period before you really get to see who they are underneath. And you're like, ooh, I don't even want to deal with this type of person. But now you in too deep. How?
Right. But
I would say history, going back to the Instagram meme or whatever the post, history does not equal chemistry. History does not equal compatibility. Like, just because you've been with somebody for so long and you think that, you know, well, I don't want to say think, you invest in a person. So of course you want it to be successful, but even on another spectrum, even another topic, like when do you realize it's time for you guys to let go and move on? Because you've outgrown each other, or you just don't want the same things out of life, which is completely fine. It might hurt, but it happens. That's what really happens.
And I think to kind of touch on what you just ended with, Mo, and then to also kind of jump into Ash's point about maturity, I feel like, and I'm going to just stick with the post of 7 years. Somewhere in those 7 years, and probably the first damn near 7 months, you knew that man maturity was not where you were. You probably knew your future plans did not align, but once again, getting very caught up in, I've invested in this man, or some of us get caught up in, I don't want to be alone. Some people get caught up in the biological clock. She might have started dating him when they were 25. I'm saying, so you think of 7 years into the present, that's about 32. At 32, that's a scary age for some people to decide, I want to start dating again when I've already invested 7 years in this relationship. But I feel like you have to be honest and real with yourself to say, I know he showed you at some points maturity wise, he was not there. You know, he wasn't looking to do what you wanted to do. And so you have to ask yourself, are you willing to stick with that and be cool with it, or you want to move forward?
And to sort of answer Mo's question as far as how do you know, when it's time to let go, I think it's easy to know when it's time to let go when the non-negotiables hit. Someone's cheated on you, there's an outside baby, abuse comes in, the crazy non-negotiables. But it's difficult to know when it's time to let go when, just like you said, people grow apart. How do you see that? People, the connection isn't the same. How do you see that? How do you know that? Do you think it's just a phase? Do you think it's, something that's the person that you're actually becoming? How do you know when you've grown apart? I think, like I said, the non-negotiables are easy to see, but when it comes to when it's just that relationship has expired, I think, especially for women, because we're so emotionally connected to things, it's difficult for us to see when something has been outgrown, or when, that time with someone has expired.
Right. Well, let's be honest too, because when it comes to these non-negotiable things, over time, these can easily be negotiable things.
I was going to say, listen, I know, speaking for self, I have been in a space where something that my younger high school self would have been like, oh, hell no, that's a non-negotiable. I'm done with him. When I got to college and even post-college, I was willing to say, oh, but he has so much potential. I feel like as women, we also get caught up. People, I won't even say women. We sometimes get caught up in the potential, and so you're like, oh, but they have these wonderful traits and I can see myself being with them. And it's kind of like, sis, come on. Like, I had a conversation with Brooke, and I know Monique and I have spoken depth about, if I were to have stayed in some of the situations that I once were in, I would not be the Whitney that I currently am.
No, not at all.
And this is not anything against that man. This is self. I would not have developed and invested into myself to blossom into who I am now. And so I feel like you the negotiables and non-negotiables, at some point you got to look at who you are becoming when you're attached to them. So facts. Okay. So in terms of non-negotiables, so Brooke, you kind of hit on some in terms of cheating, or if a baby were involved. Is there anything else that you guys consider are non-negotiables when it comes to definitely knowing, oh, it's time for me to go when he pulled this stunt?
For me, it has to be support of being invested in what I do when it comes to my career. If I know you're not pulling up to an event I'm hosting, you're not a part of the process of helping me build this event, if you're not showing some type of support, if you're not even sharing a graphic or anything like that, I feel like it gets to the point of that's non-negotiable. If you're not a part of my team, more importantly, you're on my team, then you're against me. And that's a big problem. I recently went through that. That's dead.
Yeah. That's very true. I've said that a lot too. I think the older you get, you realize and you find the value in needing someone who is going to invest in you as much as you invest into them. And that's in every arena of your life. And so I completely agree with you in that. I need you to be there for me to support what I'm doing professionally, be up with me late nights brainstorming, encourage me, show up to different events. That means a lot. So I completely agree with that. Completely agree.
I can agree with that. I can say, you know, another non-negotiable is, you know, just being able to have peace in your relationship. You know, if you can't just have that peace there, if you can't, you know, after a hard day of work with school, you know, Mo, her office, you know, Ash at the studio, like after a hard day, you just want to come home to peace. Like if there's no peace in my home, and that's something I learned, you know, in my current relationship, if there's no peace in my home, I think that's a serious non-negotiable. But I also think that that's something that you kind of have to learn, you know, to live in that peace and understand what that means. Sometimes that peace just means, you know, complete silence. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing going on. You just don't have that conversation, but you're both comfortable in that silence because it's just that peaceful, that calmness that you come home to. I think that's a non-negotiable for me.
Facts. Yeah. And this is something me and Brooke were just literally talking about the other day. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, is it a non-negotiable? And this is one thing that's been non-negotiable for me for years until maybe consideration now. Is dealing or dating somebody that has kids and you're not the biological parent of these kids, you know, is that a deal breaker? Is that negotiable? And it's like, okay, we're older. Is it negotiable? But at the same time, there has to be somebody else like me out there that doesn't have kids. I want to still be able to have a family and build that from scratch. Like, I don't want necessarily a blended family in a sense. Like, I want my kids to be my kids and my kids only with my husband. So
I don't. No, I think what you're saying is very, I completely agree in the sense of before present, I was very much on, no, I would not even think to date a man that has children. My whole perspective or mindset was, if I'm 31 now, but you know, when I said this earlier on, I would say, you know, I'm X amount, however old I am. And if I don't have any kids and I'm in my career and I'm doing this, I know I should be able to find someone who's also doing the same. Not to say that I feel like I am settling now, because I don't feel that way, but now my focus it has shifted. And I think that just happens like over time. For me, it's more based off of, I'm willing to date a man that may have a child, but the child, I don't want to feel like I'm dating him and the child is kind of like, I don't know how to say this without it coming out selfish, like, but if I'm dating a man, I want to still feel like he's able to give me 100%. You know what I'm saying? Right. Not at the expense or at the sacrifice of his child, who is his priority and should always be his priority. But I want to feel like I am still priority as well, that you're consistent with me and you still make time for me, you make space for me. And so I'm willing to date a man if he's able to give me those things. And then he tells me like, hey, I want you to know I have a kid. Cool, because you've shown me that goes back to maturity.
Right.
You are able to balance being this wonderful father who's involved with your child, but then also balance being the man who is going to give me what I need. Because I like attention, I like to spend time. So for me, that's not a non-negotiable as it once was when I was, you know, a little bit younger, a little bit more tender.
I feel like I'm at the same point just about. So
I want to hear Mo's perspective on this.
Well, I would say like maybe in my younger days, I was definitely like no kids. Then I had my own. And this might even come off as rude, but even now, as I'm still dating with my daughter is 5, I don't want to date anybody with more than one child. Because I have one. And if you got more than one, you know, and there are some stipulations. So they're like, well, what if they have 2 kids with the same mom? Or it's just like, no. Just one. Right. And then honestly, if I could, in a perfect world, this might be selfish, but I probably would go for somebody who didn't have any kids, if I could stumble across them in our age range. And it's not impossible. They're still there. So keep the hope alive, Ash. They're still out there. There's definitely still some our age that don't have any children. But you know, one is my max. Like that's my limit. I can't do more. And on a positive note though, if dating a man with a child, I do get to experience them as a father, and I know and it sets the tone for if we're going to move forward and eventually get married and have more children. I've experienced you as a father, so I don't have to worry what that's going to look like.
I completely agree.
Right.
Going from my past experience of not dating someone with children to now like being more open to it, I've been able to look at if I'm consistently dating the same person, like look at them in a different perspective. It also kind of makes me like them a little bit more. Like I ain't even gonna front. It's a little bit turn on. Like, oh, okay. Oh, you involved.
Oh,
okay,
you
like you going to game. Like you thinking of
you a father.
the thing that you should do as a father, but for me to
Right.
actually see it, for me to see if we're kicking it and your daughter is calling you just to talk about her day at work, to talk about
Right.
school. I like that because that's what I desire to have once I do start my family. So whereas before I would have been completely turned off by, not turned off, but just completely closed to it. Now it's like, oh, I get to see this whole other side of you. I think a man who is a true father, it's a really beautiful thing to see. Do you know what I'm saying? To really see that dynamic of relationship and how they love their child so much. And so I don't have an issue with it, but I agree with Monique. One would be my cutoff on unless I met just my ideal man and he told me he had twins. You know what I'm saying? You can't really do that with twins. It's kind of like you got one, but they came at the same time.
Right. So you didn't have control over it. Like you didn't keep going.
Came
You
at the
know?
same time.
So I could kind of work with twins because I might just be like, we just treat them like they one child, but you know
Right.
they really two. So, so I completely agree with that. Okay, so I have a question. What are you guys' thoughts on? Think of maybe some of your close friends who are in situations or who have been in situations with someone that you knew it was time for them to move on, but they were still holding on. How are you a friend to that person? So a friend to someone where they're coming to you maybe each week, it might be every day, talking about what he's doing or what he's not doing, and you just like, she needs to be done. Like this should have been done years ago. How do you still support that individual, but still, but not like jeopardize the integrity of your relationship or your friendship?
Barriers. You have to create barriers because my thing is like a lot of times first what I've learned is that sometimes you have to ask, well, do you want my advice? Like after, like, because sometimes my 2 cents is not needed. Maybe you just need to vent. But at the same time, I still need to set a barrier to let you know, like, listen, you know how I feel about this relationship. You already know how I feel about this guy or this girl, whoever the case is. But it's like, if you continue to choose to be in it, I can't continue to say all but so much because you choose to be there. So it's setting a barrier in that place not to really harm too much of that friendship and not to be in that person's business more than what I should be.
Right. Okay.
I think this is something that I could probably work on a little bit more. And I say that because I've never been the one to upfront say, you know, to my close friends, hey, I really don't think you should be, you know, with that person. You know, I don't think that person is good for you. Right. I have been one to say that possibly in other conversations when they're not around. So I thought it out loud. Just not too
you don't say it around, but I say it to me.
And the reason
when you went around the corner in the same house.
Right. When you're done talking and like you leave, I'm gonna be like, she probably shouldn't be with him. But I say that because I don't view relationships the way my friends do. I don't have the same goals in a relationship or the same aspects of who I want as a partner as my friends do. So it's hard for me to say I don't think that person is good for them to that person. For example, if my close friend really, really thinks that, hold on one second.
Says it's upgraded to unlimited minutes.
Okay, really? Yeah. Did you just see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Cut that out. Sorry about that. I just think that my friends value different things in a relationship than I do. So what I may view as not necessarily a good partner for them is not what they may view as a good partner for them, if that makes sense. So, you know, I have friends that are with people that I may not agree with, but either they're not at that space yet where they don't agree, or they are okay with things that I would deem as non-negotiables. So
well, why would you tell me? Maybe because I say that because maybe I need your opinion to see it from a different perspective.
And I understand that. Every friend doesn't like you.
But I want to tell you, Ash, she does tell you when she gets real judgy when you're speaking about the person. So she doesn't directly tell you, but when you're speaking about this man and she's very judgy and you can feel the shade.
You feel it. You feel it.
To the point where you like,
I like to ask questions.
I'm done talking to you. I don't want to speak to you anymore. That's what she's telling you. That's
right. Because I can't.
I'm going to let you go.
Because to me, I can't deal with it. But I'm not you. I'm not my friends. And I understand that we're all different people. We all have different, things that we enjoy. I get that. So if I don't like the person that my friend is with, or if I think that it's time for them to wrap that up and let that go, what I'll do is just exit myself out the situation. Because I don't want to ruin a friendship, even if it may already be ruined. I don't want to, be that bad person. I just can't personally deal with it. So I don't necessarily say to my friends, he's trash, you gotta let him go. I'll just be like, okay,
you gotta catch the tone, Ash, when she say it. You gotta
catch the tone. Right.
I'll talk to you
gotta catch the right
in
the background.
Yeah. So
I don't know. For me, I always tell my friends that I'll listen. I'll be that listening ear until you start to tell me about any like domestic violence, because I'm not for no domestic violence.
Right.
But other than that, it's just kind of like, like Ash said, you want advice or do you just want to vent? And I definitely set boundaries on how much I'm gonna listen to. If I already talked to you Monday and you calling me again Tuesday, I'm not gonna answer the phone. I'm just not gonna do it, like, but I'll still be there to listen. And I just make sure that I reassure my friends and let them know from my perspective what they deserve and what I think they deserve. But I try not to make decisions for them if as to who they should and should not be with.
I agree with that. Right. I ask questions, and I'll always tell my friends, like, hey, you're a real good person. You should probably, you're a good person, but I can't make that decision if you think that the person you're with is who you need to be with.
But it sounds good right now.
Right. Like
what? That's now, not what you say, No, because it's been many a times we've had conversations about men that we all should have left, and I excuse myself and be like, let me get ready to go to this nigga house right now, because you're not gonna make me feel no type of way.
I talk about you behind your back a little bit, but it's just because I love you so much, and I just let you make that decision on your own. But so Michael, okay, so Monique, question: what if it's that type of, maybe not necessarily abusive, but it's a little bit of a negative situation, but they don't tell you?
So how do you know if they don't tell you?
You can just tell, or you have a sense by how the person.
So it's some type of abuse, like mental, maybe not physical, a little mental.
But they're not
abuse.
vocal about it. But you can kind of just tell, like, for example, if like Whitney or Ashmack just started acting completely different, and you can tell that something is wrong. Like, how do you intervene at that point and say, okay, this isn't right?
Yeah. So in those moments, like those are definite signs and flags for me. Like with any of my friends, if it's changed behavior to the point where I can see that they're not the same person, I lump that all under any type of abuse. Like I just don't have any tolerance for any type of abuse. Now, because you can put, like, if you want to stick with a man that's going to continue to cheat on you, of course that's like abuse in a form, but it's not really the same. Like, that man cheating, you want to stick with him and you want to keep getting cheated on. I'm here to listen to you once a week about the next girl that he cheated with. But when I can see like your overall mental health or physically, I can see things on you have changed, and I definitely will speak up to my friend and bring it to their attention and assist in any way possible. But I can't, control a person who wants to stay with somebody that is going to continue to cheat on them, that's something within themselves that they have going on that they need to figure out. I can help you as much as possible, but in the end, I always say this to Whitney too, you know, when the lights go out, it's just you and that person. Like, you can talk to a friend, a mom, an auntie, a brother, a dad all day long about your relationship, but then when the doors close, it's just you and that person. So you can take all that advice and all those opinions into consideration, but you as a person, how you feel about yourself is what you're going to continue to allow or continue to deal with.
Right. I completely agree. And for me, I'm the type, when it comes to a friend who is in a situation where she has not yet let go, I'm that unlimited minutes type friend. Girl, call me every day. Let's talk about it every day. This is me. I hear you, girl. I'm doing follow-ups. I'm texting you throughout the day because, like Monique said, essentially it has to boil down to you being tired and you being ready or being over the situation. And until you get there, you can call me, you can text me throughout the day. I'm going to tell you the same exact thing. I will listen. But the action lies solely with you. And when you're ready to make that move, whether you need me to drive home to Virginia for it, you know, whatever that may look like, I'm here to support you. But until then, all I can do is listen. It doesn't take nothing off me to listen. Right. You know, you want to leave me a voicemail? I'll call you later on this evening. We can talk about it. But you got to.
But let's throw in a little wrench. Even though this might be a little off topic, but we talking about friendships and relationships overall. But what about that friend that gets lost in that relationship and then, you know, it affects you guys' relationship? Like, how do you all handle that? So I'm supporting you. You know, I'm hearing your mess every day. I done been so to that man ain't shit 3 or 4 times, and now you've cut me off. Essentially.
Oh, let me tell you.
They come back. They come back.
What'd you say, Ash?
The friends. I said the friends. They come back.
But how do you all deal with it, or have you ever coped with it?
So I treat, and I've told y'all this before, I am very territorial, I guess you would say, when it comes to so I look at any relationship, I look at friendships as a relationship. To me, it's the very same dynamic. It's what you put into it. It's sacrifice, it's love, it's communication. So to me, there's not a difference between a friendship and then a relationship where I lay with the man every night type thing. So when a friend has changed her behavior towards me because of someone she's dealing with, I'm all in my feelings. I'm crying. I'm calling you to let you know how I feel. I'm not calling you because I'm in my feelings, and I'm calling Brooke or either Monique, you know, or whoever else. And it hurts me. I feel that very strongly because I thought we had something that was unbreakable. And when you've now changed because of this man, I'm in my feelings to the point, for one, because it's changed who you are, right? But then it's changed who you are towards me. And so it's personal. It's personal. I've experienced that. I'll say one good real time. Another time was with someone who I thought we had a good relationship with, and then they MIA'd, and it was like, oh, we really weren't cool to begin with, now that I really reflect. But with someone who I thought we were really like, we were family, it hurts. It truly hurts. But it's hard because when you know their change was based from a man, it's hard because it hurt, but then you know that they're also hurting more than likely. Yeah. And they're also going through something. And so for me, I'm always torn between wanting to still be there for you and let you know, like, I will ride out for you at any point, but then knowing that, girl, you hurt my feelings. I done cried over you at a homecoming, drinking, just like this. Cried. Let's get into that. Let's get into my feelings been hurt.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's something I still cope with.
Yeah, I think there's 2 different ways. I think that sometimes friends do often kind of lose themselves in relationships, like when it's new, when it's fresh, when you're having fun, and you kind of center all your attention towards a particular person. I think that's possible. I mean, personally, that's something I've been through. When I was first dating, you know, my husband, I was all about him. That's what I just wanted to spend time with him. Now, what happens after that is you have that conversation with your friends. You have that transparency, like, look, he got me stuck. I'm sprung. I love y'all to death, and I will see y'all in 6 to 8 months. But I'm sprung right now. Please,
we talked about her.
Yeah, please understand. Now, there are times where you gain a better understanding of your friend through that, and you gain a better appreciation of your friend through that. And then there are times where you lose a friend through that. And I think that those are just trials and tribulations of life. I think that it sucks. I think that it also depends on who that person is in the relationship with. Like, if you know, like, my good friend, she's being taken care of, you know, he's doing whatever he needs for her, he's supporting her, he loves her, you know, he's providing for her, you know, they're doing this, that, and the other, then I, to a certain extent, can understand. I get it. You know what I'm saying? You're in love, he loves you, and it shows. There's that reciprocity, you know, you guys are there. It's a different sort of pain when you have someone who's in a relationship where you know it's just not right. And as a friend, you just want to make sure they're safe, they're okay, and they're happy. And you can tell that they're not just based on their action. And, you know, you kind of want to save them, but you're not allowed to at that point because they're not allowing you. So you're kind of just stuck as a friend. You know, if for whatever reason, you know, Whitney, Ashmack, Mo, you guys, you know, found someone and just went on to these beautiful relationships, and then, you know, I hear from you sparingly, I'm here, I get it, that's fine, y'all are happy, you're in love, you're safe, I'm cool. It's different when you know it's not that.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Yeah. I mean, just to weigh in on that, there was a situation years ago where I had to intervene from one of my friends and whoever she was dating at the time, because it was completely unhealthy. You have someone that's completely controlling. You have someone that's so manipulative. And the thing was, it got to that point, which either could have made or broke our friendship completely. But it took for that moment to happen for her to realize that, you know, she wasn't who she was. It wasn't a healthy situation. And she was upset with me for a long time. But it came to the point of that she understood why it needed to happen. So at the end of the day, I felt like, well, fuck it. We're going to have to take this risk for right now for the safety of you, physically and mentally. And that's it. So, I mean, I'm glad the risk was taken then. And I mean, at the end of the day, she's better than who she was then and previously. So that's what counts at the end of the day.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely.
Okay. Have you all ever experienced like wanting to give up on a friendship? Or, you know, even going back to like having little disputes in your friendship. And a lot of times I reflect on, you know, how women will be so easily to cut off their friends, but they won't be as lenient when it's time to let go of that man that ain't doing right by them.
And it's funny because I feel the opposite. I think that women or people in general will hold on to a friendship that's bad for them longer than they will a relationship.
You think so?
I think so.
I think
so. And I can't really tell why I think so. I think that, and maybe it's just from personal experience, I think that people will hold on to a friend that's toxic and they don't realize it yet because it's all kiki and jokes, longer than they will a man who's not doing them right, or a partner who's not doing them right.
I think those women, though, hold on to both. I think a woman who holds on to a toxic friend who maybe everyone else can tell is toxic is also the same woman that holds on to a toxic man. I agree more with Mo in the sense of, and I have been in the space of a friend who they will hold on to that man, but they'll be quick to let a friendship fall to the wayside.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that's been more of my experience, that a woman will be quick to say, oh, you know, I'm with, either they'll do one of the two, like, oh, I'm with this man and I'm fully invested in him to the point where, oh, my friends, they understand. Or it will be, oh, you know what, she did me wrong this one time, I'm going to cut her off, but your man has done you wrong since the day you first met. Right. But you gonna still give him time and chance after chance because he has potential.
You know why is that though? Because the only factor that I can think of that's not happening in a friendship, in a romantic relationship with a man, is sex.
Yeah, and you know that's gonna have you out your mind.
It's another element because every man that I talk to, I feel like they will physically fight each other and then still be friends. later on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Male relationships with one another are so far different from female relationships from one another. Even male and female relationships from one another. Because you're like male, simply platonic relationship, you can cuss him out from here to Tuesday and y'all are still good by Friday. Whereas your female friend, you say, oh, you okay, wrong? And then they not talking to you for 2 months.
But then are you really friends then?
So that's my whole, so I was going to say, yeah. So with me, like I said, this is me personally, because of the way that I hold, like how I value the friendship. If I'm going to speak from one end of, I've had a person who I thought I was friends with who cut me off. No, for me, there was no explanation. I didn't know why at the time. I just stopped hearing from them one day. I reached out to them like 3 times because I thought it was maybe due to one thing. So I reached out, didn't hear from them, reached out to them 2 other times after, still never heard anything. And then they popped back up, and Monique knows like a couple years later, maybe a year or so later, to tell me why I stopped hearing from them. At that point, it was like, girl, we weren't never really friends. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're telling me now, oh, it's been on my mind to reach out to you, and this is the reason I've cut you off, and you didn't feel like what we had was enough for you to tell me then, girl, it's water under the bridge. I don't feel a type of way. I haven't lost no sleep about it. I wish you well and all of the blessings and love. And, you know, I'm going to continue to live. We were never truly friends. I think for me, what hurts more is when you have a friend. And then when I thought about that relationship compared to another relationship I had with a friend who also distanced herself, when I heard from her, she told me it had nothing to do with you, Whitney. But I thought about everything we went through. That hurt more because we had been through so much. And then for that person to tell me you did nothing wrong, and I don't know why, like, myself, that hurt.
You're in like friendship purgatory. Like, so then why are we here?
Because now you're telling me I didn't do anything wrong, but you still made the choice to not speak to me. And then I think about everything we've been through. We've been through ups and downs with job, with finances, with men being cheated on. We've been through moves and all of this. And you're telling me I don't know why I'm not speaking to you. It's just X, Y, and Z. That hurts. But somebody who you thought you was cool with, and they tell you one thing, and you like, girl, goodbye. We won't really friends. Like, you know, that don't mean nothing.
Right.
Well, so this is unlimited recording, right? Okay, good. I have to pee.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe this is a question for Mo. Is there such thing as entitlement in friendships? Because I feel like I agree with Wade when she was saying about how all friendships are necessarily their relationships. So my thing is sometimes there's a falling out, and I've had falling out with people because they feel entitled to my life or feel entitled to what I'm dealing with, and I don't have to share everything with you. You know what I mean? Sometimes my personal problems just need to be my personal problems, and it's okay for me to go through this alone without anybody else's input or influence of what I need to do and the decision making I need to make for myself.
Yeah, I think in that moment, go ahead. It's definitely a moment to be able to reflect on a friendship overall, and then the person who's feeling entitled, and then dependency of the person. I've definitely experienced friends who've had other friends, and I felt like, you know, based on what they would share with me, based on what was going on, I made it my point to not make sure that our relationship resembled the same thing that they were experiencing, where, you know, it felt like they were more of in a romantic relationship than just a normal friendship without the sex. You know, it's like they would depend on each other to look out if money wasn't there, to look out if children needed to be watched. You know, it was too much dependency in a relationship. And then those feelings were arise where it's like, well, you didn't share this with me, now I'm feeling upset. You know, I feel like boundaries need to be set in all friendships. And it depends on the person. You definitely have to look at the person, definitely have to look at the personality types. Once you definitely start to see that a person is feeling in their feelings because you didn't share your personal life with them, you might want to reevaluate the friendship in itself. And I feel like we had some of those issues, right? Or it could be something that they're going through within themselves. Like, is it any underlying jealousy there? You know, I felt like when people was making choices and moves and decisions for their own lives and didn't decide to share that are you really upset that I didn't share? Or are you upset that you're in a space in your life and you're not doing the same thing? So now you feel like you can't relate, or you might be a little envious of what I have going on.
Right. Can you mention any other red flags to look for? Because, if I knew that prior to, then it was just like, okay, maybe I've ignored these flags from friendships before.
But if you think back to the relationship you have with this person, was this someone, or is this someone who maybe always felt that they were entitled to what you had going on in all areas of your life? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I never thought about it.
Right, where they were getting upset or maybe a little salty or change in behavior when you didn't tell them. Let's just say, for example, because Brooke always, not just Brooke, people tell me I'm very private. And I feel like if you are my friend and you can't accept and handle the fact that I am private, especially when it comes to relationships, I'm super private. I can bust a relationship out on you till it's about a year in. It's a year in, and I'm like, ooh, 1 year, we celebrating, and you like, when y'all even start dating? So if you feel some type of way about the process in between, do you know what I'm saying? Those are things that make me feel like, oh, and like Monique said, we experience this where it's like, oh, are you feeling some type of way because you're not in a relationship? Why are you feeling some type of way towards, because I didn't tell you? I don't have to tell you, and naturally, that's not the person I am when it comes to certain things in my life. So I feel like I would look at with that person or those individuals, have you always felt some type of way when I didn't tell you things, or did instead you seek to understand versus seek to get in your feelings because you're the first to know?
Mm-hmm.
So are we talking about red flags in friendships?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I will say one of my red flags is being honest, but not in an overcritical way. I think there's not to be over delicate with someone, but if I'm coming to you as a friend and I'm already down for one reason or another, say it's job, say it's relationship, say it's, school, say it's just something ridiculous, don't hit me with, well, Brooke, I told you, he wasn't a good man. Well, Brooke, I told you, you probably shouldn't have applied for that job, because that has been something that in, one of my friendships has happened. And it was, one of my really close friendships. I wasn't able to come to them with my pain because they almost made it worse. And I'm not saying you necessarily have to cradle me and make it seem like all of my decisions are good decisions or everything I'm doing is right. But if I'm coming to you with hurt, come to me with some sort of empathy, like meet me with that. If I've had that friendship where that empathy isn't there, that, we're going to sit through this now. We may laugh and joke about it later once I'm through with the pain. Like, Brooke, I told you he was probably trash in the first place. We could do that 3 months from now when I'm okay. But you know what I'm saying? Just meet me with empathy. Like, that's what I want when I'm coming to you with a hard situation.
So is that a reason for you to end a friendship, to move on from a friendship?
I think it can be. I can say from personal experience, it's for me, and that to tie that into what I was saying earlier, it's a lot harder for me to move on from friendships than it is relationships. I can break up with somebody with no problem, no sweat, not think about it, not be hurt. I'm good. It's harder for me to let go of friendships, and I think that's because I only have a small circle of friends. And I feel like that small circle of friends, I've been friends with them for years. And there's so much loyalty and there's so much trust and there's like such a bond I have with them that it's difficult for me to let that go. So it's harder for me personally. It's harder for me to end friendships than it is relationships.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So to go back to what Brooke was saying, like, are these things that you're that you're effectively communicating with friends? Because do we ever stop to think, or with significant others too, like, hey, this is, by you saying this makes me feel this way. And when you say this, I receive this as A, B, and C. You know what I mean? A lot of times how we communicate isn't the same way how the other person receives it on the other end.
I will say for me, I think the friendship circle that I have with Brooke and, you know, a couple other people, I've been blessed where I have been able to communicate that. I can think back specifically to a time with Brooke. We went on a ski trip. This was years ago, and it was a large amount of us. And this was prior to Brooke and James being married. They were still in the dating phase. I don't think they were engaged yet. So they were still dating. But we felt like we had kind of lost Brooke as a friend. We used to joke and say, like, you know, I ain't gonna see this bitch probably until the wedding.
Girls be like, sprung, girl. Girls get in a relationship, be sprung.
But I felt like it wasn't, you know, there was a connecting friend between the two of us. And I was like, listen, I'm gonna let you bring it up to her because I'm in my feelings. And at that space in my life, I was very much how I felt. I'm gonna let you know. My delivery was not always correct. I was very brash at that time. And so when we went on this ski trip, it was kind of like, I felt like it was going to be our last farewell type thing, right? With Brooke, because we hadn't seen Brooke. We had not seen Brooke, hadn't really heard from Brooke, didn't really know too much about James, but James appears on this ski trip, and we like, man, what the F? You know what I'm saying? This man cooked this nigga in the kitchen, like, I don't even know this man. Like, all of these things. I already didn't like him, but I didn't know him. So we had
Thanks for the honesty, Whitney.
Right. So there was a conversation that I shared with another friend, and she ended up having the face-to-face with her. She was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. You know, you not in that space where you're gonna be able to be a part of the conversation. And she had this conversation with Brooke. It turned into like an hour and a half hour conversation where, because we were so in sync and we were so in sync as a circle, a friendship circle or a sister circle, she was able to share with her exactly like, this is how I feel. This is how we feel. Do you know what I'm saying? And I trusted that friend a lot. We were like sisters, trusted that friend a lot. And so she was able to have the conversation and Brooke was able to receive it. And there has been other times when I think of where Brooke has maybe told me something on how she felt, and I was able to sit down and tell her like, hey, I don't know, Brooke, I feel like you being a little judgy. And I feel like that's a blessing because everyone doesn't have that. Where sometimes she'll tell me like, well, I don't know, you doing too much. You being too harsh. Whatever the case may be, everyone doesn't have that level of, I feel like, transparent communication where it's not going to result in repercussions in the friendship. Even Monique and I have had times where we're able to have conversations and be like, Mo, you don't really think he's doing this, or vice versa. Whitney, and it didn't result in a tear or a break in the communication. And I'm very blessed to have that because that's imperative. Just like you would sit down with your man to tell him like, babe, I feel like you hurt my feelings, you know, or you did hurt my feelings when you said this. I don't like that you said it. I've been able to have those same conversations with, you know, my sisters and Brooke is a sister to me, where I've been able to tell them this is how I feel based off of you doing this or not doing this or you saying this, and we're still, I feel like now we're stronger than ever. So it's important to have, and I feel like it's very rare for a lot of friendship groups to be able to do those.
So how do you know, like, when that type of reciprocity of communication or when that type of empathy isn't there, how do you know when it's time to let go? Like, how do you let go of a friendship? Like, you know when it's time, but how do you break up with a friend?
How do you break up with a friend?
Put them on D&D, block their number. How do you do that? Because you know how to break up with a man.
You can't really ghost your friends, though.
You gotta block them.
See, and that's.
Honestly, I've never had to break up with a friend, but I definitely had to set some boundaries where I didn't speak to a person for like a few months because I just wasn't in the space, and it went back to just outgrowing each other. Honestly, I mean, I still kind of feel the same way. Like we're really not doing the same things, and this person comes to me a lot for a lot of advice and it really is going in one ear out the other, and they just engage in the same behaviors over and over, expecting a different outcome. And I've said my piece, and so for me to maintain peace and still have that friendship, because she's never done anything personally to me, you know, she's never hurt me, never disrespected me, it's just we're just not on the same wave, and my patience was getting low. And so it's like, okay, well, what do I do? Do I just say, I don't want to be friends anymore because I feel like I've outgrown you? So I was like, no, let me just, you know, put a little bit of space in between. And then again, in a few months, unfortunately it's the same stuff. But I feel better about just setting the boundaries with her and just speaking to her occasionally. And I can still call her a friend. I'm pretty sure she still considers me as a friend, but I had to realize, like, it's okay to just outgrow people. And hopefully the people that you outgrow will still stick around enough for you guys to still maintain some level of friendship. It might not look the same, but, some level of communication can still exist.
Right.
Do you have a conversation with that person about that, Mo, to let them know? Or you just kind of organically
Oh, well, I didn't necessarily have a conversation and say, hey, I'm going to not talk to you for 3 months. I just kind of didn't answer the phone. But I've communicated multiple times that, we're not doing the same things. We're not interested in the same things. I definitely give my opinion on her lifestyle and the things she does and why is it, in my opinion, why her life is going the way it's going. So she does know all of those things, but I never really said, well, I'm not feeling a friendship at this moment, so I'm just going to take a break. I just kind of took the break. Yeah.
See, I feel like our society that we live in now is just used to ghosting everyone. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's places to establish and have better communication with significant others, with friends, and everyone, just to let them know, like, hey, I'm putting up a barrier. That's but we don't do that. It's like, why don't we give
it's easier. Ghosting is easier.
I know, but I can't respect it. So the minute someone ghosts me, especially a friend, I've never been, not to make it seem like I'm the shit, but I've never been ghosted by a man. But when I've been ghosted by friends, you lost all respect. So when you come back, because at more times than not, the person who ghosts you in terms of friendship, you're going to hear from them at some point in the future.
Right.
Whether it's unintentional or whether they reach out because you're on their heart, I use that loosely, but you'll hear from them and it's done. Because if you didn't value me enough as the friend to say, hey, I feel like we're going in 2 different places, or hey, you really rubbed me the wrong way when you did this, we really didn't have anything. And so now if you hit me up 3 years in the present,
that's a little extreme. Yeah. I feel like in 3 years I don't even know you anymore.
Thank you. Right. You don't know me. So if you
we're not even the same person anymore.
Yeah. So if you telling me in 3 years in the present or 2 years in the present why you stopped talking to me 2 years ago, girl, I'm a whole different person. I'm not even going by Whitney no more. I'm going by Whit. I'm on that at this point. Call me my middle name. So I completely agree with that. Yeah. So I have a question. Or this is a more personal, this is kind of getting back to the root of the topic. What was our or your individual reasons for moving on from a past situation? So we're going to go back to the relationship. What was your reasons for moving on from a past situation?
Who goes first?
I'll go first. It had to been growth and really, the non-negotiables that become negotiable that you don't want to be negotiable about anymore. Of course, I feel like we've all experienced relationships where somebody cheated or you got comfortable. And I know I've gotten comfortable with a relationship that I thought had so much potential, but in reality, I'm looking at potential and not what's happening in front of me and thinking that, well, I can fix this. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of times I feel like I can fix it. But in a relationship, it's about what we can fix. And the we part was missing and it was non-existent. And it took a lot of time for me to realize, well, you were the only person trying to put in any type of effort. So it's just kind of like establishing your self-worth, establishing the type of communication and what a relationship truly looks like to you. And when I got tired of it, is just when you get tired of it, and it's just like, okay, well, it's time to move on from this. Completely.
Yeah.
I can say that from my most recent past situation that I have moved on from, it came from a space of, this just is not what I envisioned. This isn't what I wanted. And there was no infidelity that I knew of. Now, later on, there were some things that I found out about. There was no infidelity that I knew of at that moment. There were, no abuse. There was nothing ridiculous. It was just sort of that realization that this is not in my plan. This isn't what I want. And it was hard for me because it was a longevity situation. So it was a situation of, I've been with this particular person for X amount of years, you know, how do I just throw all of that away? But then, you know, you kind of wake up one day, and like the conversation I had with Whitney, somebody posted on Twitter one day and was like, you know, ladies, when did you realize, you know, you were the shit? And you kind of wake up one day and it's like, you know what, I deserve more than what this situation is going to bring out. I deserve a lot more than what's going on. And that's not to say the person you're with is a bad person. That's to say that you deserve more than that person may be able to offer. So, you know, and there are some times where you break from or separate from a situation and ultimately you're the bad person. And I'm okay with being that. I'm fine with being that. And I'm fine with being that because I'm happy now. I'm in a position that I wanted to be in. Like, I knew what I wanted out of a particular relationship, and I got that. Now, you know, were feelings hurt? Possibly. You know, were hearts broken? Possibly. But are you supposed to, as a partner, are you supposed to neglect how you personally feel just because someone else's heart is going to be broken? Even if it's not what you truly want? I couldn't do that to myself. I couldn't go on doing that to myself. So I knew what I wanted, and I knew the situation I was in was not that. So I got out of that situation.
For me, I knew it was time, for me to move on once I realized, like, once I had I don't know if you guys have had those moments where you're present, but it's like those outer body moments where you're sitting back looking at yourself and reflecting on everything in the present. And I was like, what the F am I doing? Like, and I had to tell myself one day, I was like, you real corny, dog. Like, talking to myself, you corny for this situation. You are in a love and hip hop situation is how it felt to me. In this whole
Me too. We was on the show together.
Yes, like, no, this is my man. This is my man. And, I'm gonna try to call you about this. And it's like, what? Like, that's not me. Like, I never foresaw myself being in a situation with any man where I was also in a relationship with the other lady he was with. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it was corny. It was so corny. And when I was willing to let go of, I was in a game and I'll be damned if I'm going to lose to someone, I think is when I truly was able to realize, I'm the shit. And not to say anything against, like you said, Brooke, to that man or to the other individual, not at all, because that's what you are willing to deal with. Like, that's what you're willing to accept, and that's fine. That's not for me. So I think for me, that was my moment of realizing, I'm the shit. And then the following year is when I walked in me being the shit. Like, I realized it the year before, but it took some healing. It took a lot of crying. Like Brooke said, were hearts broken? Yes. Like, was my feelings hurt for me? Yes. Feelings was hurt. You know, I felt kind of all over the place. But the minute I walked in it, and the minute too that I owned, I'm going to take up space in every room I come into. I'm taking up space. This is my room. Do you know, just as much as it's the next lady's room or the next woman's room. I think for me, that was a minute that I knew it was time to move on, because had I continued to entertain this three-way situation, like I said earlier, it wouldn't be this Whitney. It would be another version of Whitney, but it would not be this Whitney, because I was so codependent on this other individual and so entangled into this other situation. And so I feel like once I've walked in that, I've been able to heal. There's been a lot of forgiveness on my part for self, for other people. There's not any, I've talked to Brooke about this before, you don't even feel the level of hurt or bitterness, or it's not there, because now it's no longer about them, it's about you.
Right.
And you wish them well just as much as you wish yourself well. So I think that was a very powerful moment for me when I realized this is who I want. The person I am now, I saw myself wanting to be her years ago. And once I was willing to walk away and step into that, while it was scary, it's been so rewarding. And I don't know, just it's just been a refreshing feeling. I don't know, I felt so rejuvenated being this person. So for me, it was, you know, realizing like, that's not for me. That's not gonna be my story. I don't want that to be who I am. So
And I can kind of relate to Whitney. I would say it was an immaturity, probably on my behalf. And I say being immature because I was being prideful in an immature manner. So that same idea of I invested this time, I've done X, Y, and Z. I'm not allowed anyone to win when I was basically losing the whole time, pretty much. So, you know, I did have situations where, and then I'm not gonna lie, probably just being comfortable. You know, my long-term relationship had a lot of breakups, and I would date and entertain other people in between time, and then that would go sour, and I would just go back to what I knew, be comfortable. You know, just I'm already comfortable in this situation. Why not go back? And it wasn't until you have that moment where you're just like. And I think it comes with being mature enough to realize and not being afraid to move on and step into the person that you really know you want to be, or the idea of who you want to be, being mature enough to do so and not being afraid to do so.
Right. I agree. I think it came with my career. Once I really got, and I hate to say it, once I really got embedded in my career, I kind of knew what I wanted and what I didn't want. And that came with friendships, relationships, everything. Like I knew what my goals were. I knew what I aspired to be. I knew what I wanted. And in order to put that vision in place, there were certain things that I just couldn't take with me. And if that came with me being the bad guy for however long, even if I still am the bad guy, I'll take that because I deserve to be where I envision myself being based on how hard I worked when I was that person. And I'm not going to let somebody lag on or, hinder that growth. So
I agree with that, Brooke. I think for me, I started reading this book, the 40-Day Prayer Challenge. And one of the things it kind of encouraged you to do was like circling the things that you want out of life, right? Start like writing it down, circling it, and kind of just going back to it. And when I thought about relationships, the things that I desired to have, I knew were not going to come to fruition had I stayed in the situation that I was in.
Exactly.
And so the things that I'm experiencing now, of course, would not be if I was still dealing with or still in the same space, that I was once occupying. And I think that just comes with having a vision for yourself. Like looking ahead to say, this is what I want for myself in the next, maybe not even next 5 years. It doesn't have to be a 5-10 year plan, but the next year. This is what I want romantically. This is what I want professionally. And then self-evaluating or reflecting on where you are now. And it is where you are now going to get you those things. So I agree with you.
Wasn't there another post you saw?
There was another post. I'm going to touch on that, and then we can touch on that, and then we'll kind of wrap it up because we've had some good conversation. The other post I saw, this is a scenario. So tell me you guys' thoughts on this. It says, my girlfriend of 6 months has been out of work for the past 2 weeks, and she just got word that she will be laid off permanently. She asked me if she could move in with me. I told her I'm not ready to share my home with anyone. She offered to pay half the bills, and I declined. She then proceeded to ask, could I pay her rent for the next month? And I told her I'm uncomfortable doing things that a husband should do for my girlfriend, but told her she could borrow $300. She says I'm wrong for not helping her out and that she isn't sure if she will continue dating her. Is that a reason? If you were the friend, is that a good enough reason to say, girl, you need to move on. You need to let that relationship go? What are y'all thoughts?
I mean, initially as a friend, of course you're going to have your questions like, oh, he's not trying to help you out. He's not trying to do anything. He's not trying to be a provider for you. Like naturally, I feel like you're going to have those questions. But on the flip, did that conversation ever initially come up? Did you have an end game of being together in marriage and longevity, or is this just a temporary thing? You know, so the only thing I would truly be upset about is the fact that if he said, oh, you can borrow $300. That's what got me messed up. $300, you can borrow.
I already don't have a job, boy. Like, what? I got laid off. You want this money back?
Borrow?
Please, run me
It's
them
a loan. He said it's a loan. Look, I don't know you like that. It's a
run me them
loan.
Benjamins.
I don't know you like that. You can borrow $300.
It's a
That's what got
loan.
me.
I think the initial reaction is like, just like you are, like, well, he's not trying to help you, but let's flip the table. Would y'all do the same? You just
No.
met this man. He lost
Sorry.
his job. He's trying to move in.
Now that's so. This is so. I had.
I can't hear you, Whit.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had this conversation with someone of the opposite sex, and I feel like this is once again has come with age and maybe a little maturity. I'm not going to get so much caught up, or I'm not so much caught up in the fact that they've only been dating for 6 months, right? Because I feel like the older you get, the longevity of the relationship, as we earlier discussed, does not necessarily play as a significant role as the connection that you guys feel. So
Right.
that have been together for 6 months, and within 6 months they knew this is my man, meaning my husband, vice versa, and we will be together. So if that connection is there, and my man came to me and at a 6-month period and said, you know, babe, or I knew, he told me already, babe, I lost my job, I probably wouldn't think twice about saying, I don't know about moving in, that's huge, but I won't rule it out. I won't rule it out, but that wouldn't be my first course of action. But to say, like, babe, well, how much is there anything I can help you with?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I do feel, because he made the point to put in there 6 months, this man clearly don't have that type of connection with her. So if I were her, it would make me think, like, what we doing here? What's this anyway? What's happening?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You talking about borrow? Boy, you ain't getting these Benjamins back. You won't see him no more. Wait,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely not the connection that she may seem. I will also say this. If it is somebody that I have been with 6 months and we haven't had, like you said, that conversation of, and Ashmack, like you said, where is this going? What's the longevity of this? What's the end game? If we haven't had that conversation, like if we just like kicking it, you're not moving in with me, because living with a man and dating a man are two whole different steps. Mm-hmm. Living with a woman and dating a woman are two whole different steps. Two whole different steps. Yeah. So I think it would be difficult. I think in this particular situation, because I'm sure she lost her job because of the virus, right? Mm-hmm. I think in this particular situation, this is a conversation to see how empathetic he is, because it's like, damn, like, I'm not saying I want to live with you for kicks and giggles. I'm telling you I want to live with you because it's hardship. Like, it's a virus, niggas is dying. Like, you know, it would be different if it was like a regular layoff or, you know, a regular decrease of hours. Like, this is a different situation. It's still hard. Living with the opposite sex is not easy if you guys don't have that end game of you know, coming together. It's not fun. Like, living with a man you don't know where it's gonna end up is not fun. I just want to let you know that.
But see, to the man's defense, I guess my question, if I were the boyfriend, would be, have you talked to your mama? Or
and that's what I was gonna say.
What about one of your home? Yeah. What about one of your homegirls?
My thing as a friend is, I would ask you, well, you know, you can stay with me. Like, why would you want to stay with this man you just
But even if you had that conversation, me personally, even if I talk to someone I'm dating with intent, like, we have plans to do all these things in the future, I just don't feel like taking the time frame off of it or putting the time frame back on it, if I would even be prepared to take any of those steps until we are prepared together. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if we say, okay, yeah, we're dating, I want to get married, I want to have a family, but it's like, we never said that. We never reached a point where, okay, we put in 8 months we're going to do this, in a year we're going to do this. It happens organically. So for something to come in and throw it off and kind of make you get off of, or create a time frame that didn't exist, it can be uncomfortable. Yeah. Because not even if we had that connection, even if we had plans to be married and do this, in 3 months, maybe I'm not there yet, you know, because we're still adjusting to the new relationship. I don't want to, and this is personally, after 3 months or even 6 months, I don't care how strong the connection is. I just don't think I'm ready to move in with anybody.
Not in strong. No. I will say, if this is specifically based on, you know, the coronavirus, and that's why she's moving in. This is a terrible time to move in with somebody because y'all are quarantined. You can't like go out. You can't leave.
Yes.
You can't go
what
nowhere.
you saying, Brooke? She gonna sleep in her car?
I'm just saying, like, you can't go nowhere. Like, if this is your first time living with someone of the opposite sex that you've only known for 6 months, this is not the time to do it, sweetie. It's just not. It's just not. And if I totally agree with him. I do. I'm on his side. No.
Other than the borrowing, like I would definitely expect my man to be looking out, but to have me move into his space, I wouldn't expect that. But
I agree.
I'm okay with the borrowing because
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not okay with the borrowing. You're not looking out. That B word is not looking
because my
out.
question is, what were the conversations beforehand? Because if
I'm gonna tell you, and this could be this is me. This might be an area of immaturity or that I'm spoiled, but I would feel some type of way if I come to my man on a Tuesday, right, and say, "Babe, guess what? I just got laid off," and he like, "For real?" And then it's crickets, and that nigga don't say, "You need to borrow some money."
That's definitely spoiled.
But at the same
I
time,
was definitely spoiled because
you have to understand everybody's in these financial strains. So he's like,
but let's say he not
outside of Corona.
But you don't know that. He didn't tell you that in the story. He just
What
said
if he's stable? What if he's financially stable?
That's what I'm saying.
Then it's still,
he's good.
$300 is a lot. That's a Verizon bill.
No, if he's been financially stable, you know, he's well on his feet. He probably got an LLC.
All I'm saying
you know
is
what
not an
like,
LLC.
no.
All I'm saying is that's a Verizon bill. That could be a
then I shouldn't be borrowing. Here, I'm gonna give you $300.
Niggas is at home. Niggas is using all their data.
I'm not borrowing no money. Borrow? No. Give me
Maybe $300. I have a different aspect of money. I have a different aspect of money.
Borrow? Really? No.
All I'm saying is there are people that I was in relationships with that within 6 months they asked to borrow money and I still want it back. I'm just saying.
So that means the connection wasn't there, clearly, because you married with James.
No, that doesn't mean the connection wasn't there. That just means those preliminary questions weren't asked. Because if you already know this is my thing. If you already know the man you're about to be with, then 6 months in, he should, if you know who that man is and y'all have that equal conversation and you guys are on the same wavelength as far as who you are as a couple, then 6 months in, he wouldn't say you can borrow $300. That to me tells me that y'all just talking.
Right.
Yeah.
And if y'all just talking,
I agree.
Then I want my $300 back. Like, I understand your strengths. I won't give you a time frame. Feel free to pay it however you like. I want my $300 back.
Don't give a time frame, Brooke, because they've been laid off. So it's going to take them another 6 months to get a job.
2021 January. I want my $300 back. That's all I'm saying. If he's asking you to borrow, if he's saying he could borrow, then that to me tells me that y'all not on that relationship wavelength. Y'all
I agree with that too. I agree.
Not there. Yeah, I agree with that.
Because he wouldn't have said that.
I completely agree. I agree with that.
Okay. And if he's not gonna say that, then that means y'all shouldn't live together.
Exactly.
Well, I want to go ahead and bring us to a close. Thank you so much, ladies, for the conversation. I think it has been truly enjoyable on all ends. Thank you for those, once we post, that have tuned in and even contribute in the comments to the conversation and or discussion, and be on the lookout in the near future for some upcoming episodes. And once again, this is the Social Exchange. We are signing out. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.